Jonathan, what did you think of Nigel Owens' game overall? Did he officiate the breakdown correctly? Was there any off-the-ball kind of stuff that he didn't see that you possibly saw?
I think Nigel's probably in the top couple of refs in the world and certainly one of the favourites to do the Rugby World Cup final of 2015. I thought in general he had a very good game. He explains his decisions really well. He's got a good sense of humour, and he seems to have time to make his decisions, which is always the mark of a good sportsman and a good referee as well. If on review and on reflection, I think there's a period in the game where I would have concerns, and I think he'll look at it again. When an international team gets penalised 10 times in a row, as one of the stats came up on the Boks on the weekend, that does send out a red flag for me. And I think in those 10 instances, there are at least 2 wrong decisions. One where Willie Leroux is isolated on the touchline, but there's no clear release by David Pocock. And there's a scrum later on where the Australian back 5 clearly whip wheels, and he penalises our scrum for knee on the ground, I think it is. I would hazard a guess that the one certainly precedes the other. And perhaps a reset in that instance was a fairer outcome. And then I thought there was a questionable decision against Kobus Reinach towards the end, where he was almost certainly the first arrival and dominant tackle and wasn't rewarded, where in previous instances in the game similar had been rewarded. And I felt that the momentum of decisions started to go in favour of Australia. And so certainly those few, I would say that he'd put his hand up and say, he didn't get those right. But we have to look a little bit broader than just referee errors. There were obviously people have been speaking a lot about, quite a vogue topic at the moment, to speak about the timing of substitutions.
Yes.
And enough's been said about that.
What did you make of these substitutions, the timing of the substitutions?
Yeah, look, I don't think they were all amazing, but it's a very difficult thing to get exactly spot on. And, maybe, quite rightly, I think, you've got to have faith in your bench. You've got to give them the opportunity to actually get their teeth into a game sometimes and not just play out the last 5 minutes. Having said that, I would have liked to have had an away win. I think they would have been very good for the confidence of the team, and perhaps to keep the players on for an extra 10, 15 minutes wouldn't have necessarily broken them physically, as the result may have, the impact of this result may have on them mentally. So, yeah, I don't think it was amazing, but I think there's a lot that we actually did do very well. I thought our set piece was good up until, the bench came on. Lineouts were functioning effectively without Matfield. I thought our first up tackling was amazing. I thought we were getting through the gain line almost at will. Our clean-outs were urgent and pretty good. I thought our steals were excellent. Communication on D was outstanding, and I thought our line speed was much better than in the past. Maybe taking a leaf out of the Highlanders book from the final, and maybe why they were able to achieve such success. I think the players also made some errors. It's not just we talk about referee errors, so we'd like to focus on a couple of Nigel's mistakes, and every referee makes mistakes. But I think if you look at some of the players, Willie Leroux towards the end kicking the ball straight down their throats for a counter-attack, which ultimately led to a try. Kobus Reinach not clearing our lines. A couple of minutes from the end, Henry Pollard, when we got a penalty, not kicking the ball out. Bismarck, when we were able to steal one of their steal possession in our 22, then trying to kick it out instead of actually rumbling it up or using the strength that he's famous for. We made silly mistakes, and I think the players will accept their responsibility in those areas as well. So I think it's not a perfect game. Heineke's not perfect, the players aren't perfect, and the ref can't be perfect either.
Final question, and just quickly, do you think the Springboks overall are becoming a more disciplined side? Because they have had some black marks next to their names in the past.
Yeah, I don't think the Springboks are necessarily a badly disciplined team at all. I don't think we're the most penalised team in the competition every year. I think sometimes we make silly errors of judgment, and that's disappointing. But I don't think it's the team that wins the penalty count that ends up winning the game. I think, sometimes it's where you give away the penalty. Sometimes it's score related. Keeping the pressure of the scoreboard going. Sometimes it's what you need to do on D. There's a whole bunch of factors going into it. But there was certainly enough evidence on Saturdays to suggest that there has been an improvement in the way that we would like to play the game. And it's disappointing that there were, those silly mistakes. So obviously we've got a difficult task coming up when we play the All Blacks, and they had a very strong conference in Super Rugby this year. I said right from the week 3 already that they looked by far to have the strongest conference in the competition, and it played out perfectly when they had 2 teams in the final. And I still think the All Blacks are quite some way ahead of the other 3 in the competition. So it'll be interesting to see how we go. We have surprised in the past, but not many times. But I'm hopeful. I think, we've got 15 players on the park, hopefully, at any given time, and we've got a chance.
Okay. Thanks, JK. Thanks for your insight.
Yeah, pleasure.
Well, if you agree or disagree with anything Jonathan has said this morning, please add your opinion to our comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube channels.